Hey guys, it's H4, aka Beardnor himself. This gameplay is a 30-5 on Standoff. I'm using the FAL with the quick draw handle and the reflex sight. Basically what I want to tell you guys is actually a funny story that happened to me over the last 2 weeks. There was a Need for Speed promotion I'm sure some of you are aware of, where Machinima was sending out copies of Need for Speed to the partners and directors so that we could share our experiences with the game with you guys and talk to you about how we felt about the game. Well, when they first sent it out, there was a problem with Canadian customs and it got bounced back, and I actually missed out on the initial wave of these games coming out. But what was really funny, and where the funny story comes into play, is when they sent me out a second copy. The second copy, I was sent through a company called DHL. And I'm not sure if many of you know this company. I certainly didn't before this whole event actually took place. I'm familiar with UPS, FedEx, and many other companies, but DHL was a new one to me. So I missed the first initial delivery, and there was a sticker on the window at the front door, which basically said that, you know, you'd missed it, they were going to try again, and another day, and, you know, no big deal, right? So I missed it a second time, and this came close to the time when I was about to go on vacation. So, you know, I said to my admin assistant, which is a lady that lives down in the front of the building, is a really sweet woman, to keep an eye out for it, and, you know, if she does happen to catch the delivery guy, maybe tell him to leave it with her. So, literally, and I shit you not, the day after I leave for my vacation, doesn't the guy come? He comes, and of course nobody catches him. He leaves another note on the door, and so I thought that was the end of it. I came back from vacation, I got this note. It says, arrange with the company for a new delivery. So you're thinking, oh well, they probably have it at their warehouse or their building, and you know, that's the end of the case. Not quite. So I talked to the company, and I call them up and I say, I'd like to arrange for another delivery, and they say, well, no, we've already completed our delivery. What do you mean you've already completed your delivery? Well, we've released the package to someone who works in your building, and they signed for it. And so I'm thinking, oh well, it's probably that admin assistant lady, that sweet lady that lives at the front of the building, and you know, no big deal. All right, well, thank you. All right, bye. So I head downstairs, and I go and talk to the admin assistant of the building, and no, she didn't sign for a package. No, she never even saw a package. In fact, she never saw the delivery man in the first place. Well, fuck me. All right, so I gotta go back up to my apartment, and I call up DHL again. I was like, who did you leave the package with? Who signed for it? So they tell me, and for privacy purposes, I'm gonna change the names, but when they said they released the package, now keep in mind the admin assistant is a female, and they signed this to, we'll call him Bob Johnson. Bob Johnson. Okay, why would you sign this away to a Bob Johnson? I don't even know a Bob Johnson. You know, our superintendent, he lives in the building across the street, so it couldn't have been him. And the admin assistant is a female, she's clearly not named Bob Johnson. So, okay, who's this Bob Johnson? Well, DHL tells me he claims to have been the superintendent of my building. Interesting. Okay, so did you ask for any ID for this Bob Johnson to show you that, you know, maybe he is, you know, indeed Bob Johnson, superintendent of, you know, my building? No, they didn't ask him for that. They just signed it away and gave it to him. So I thought for certain on my end that, you know, this guy had intercepted the guy at the front lobby, and that he had pretended that he worked for the building and signed for this package. So obviously I'm very frustrated, and I'm pissed off, and you know, it shouldn't be going that way. So I go back down to the admin assistant lady, and I'm like, do you know like a Bob Johnson? And she's like, oh, I know a Bob Johnson. I was like, oh man, there's a guy in our building named Bob Johnson. Go figure. So not only did he sign for the package, but he signed his own name, which, you know, if you're going to steal something from someone, that's probably not the smartest thing to do. So she's telling me that Bob Johnson, who lives in our basement, apartment number 1, is a dude who just got out of jail approximately a week before I went on vacation and is on parole. I don't know what for, and this is all hearsay, but clearly a shady character, clearly a dickwad that lives in my building that happens to, you know, probably be squatting in his apartment there. And obviously not a reputable character. So I'm sitting here going, oh shit, you know, like of course it's the shady motherfucker in my building that signs for it, and not anybody, you know, who just, you know, wanted to hold off a package for me. So clearly this was stolen. So I go back to DHL, and of course they're like, oh, we're escalating it to our branch manager. Okay, we're escalating it to our branch's regional branch manager. And they give me a bunch of bureaucratic BS about how they're escalating the situation, but really not solving anything. So I try to get as much information out of them. They send me a signature. They send me, you know, a time of which the package was released. And so I go back to my admin assistant. I'm like, okay, what can I do here? And she's like, well, there's security cameras. We just had them installed across the building. And I was like, jackpot, I got this motherfucker. He's going to be on the front lobby intercepting this DHL guy. I'm going to have him red-handed. I'm going to be able to, you know, run the stake through him and get my package back. No big deal. If he hasn't sold it already. So I go and I talk to the superintendent. I sit down and I get to view the security footage and I'm watching. Now, does this guy intercept the DHL guy at the door? No. He gets, the DHL guy comes to my building, and now there's a buzzer board, and my number's somewhere in the middle, and the superintendent and the management's at the bottom, and it says clearly in all capitals, superintendent, and at the top of the list of this entire board is, go figure, Bob Johnson. So, sure enough, doesn't the DHL guy either buzz me and fail horribly because I'm not in the country, and then decide to go to the top of the list and just buzz some random number that's on the board, thinking maybe that's a guy who works for the building, and gets buzzed in by this guy, because clearly this guy heard, well, I got a package delivery, you know, for someone I can't reach them, you know, just buzzes this guy, and the guy's like, sure, jackpot, I'm gonna take this thing. So I watch the footage, the DHL guy gets buzzed in and heads directly downstairs. Now, I live 2 floors up, and this guy lives in the basement, so it's not like he even tried to go to my door. He went straight downstairs, straight to this guy's door, releases the package, signs for it, and, you know, that's all she wrote. Getting back to the gameplay, clearly you see my terrible final kill cam here of me getting shocked by my own shock charge. But I win 30-5, and we're moving into another gameplay that's going to be on Hijacked with me using the MSMC. I'm going 30-10 on this one. I'm using the silencer and fast mag. But yeah, getting back to the story. So basically, this guy signs for the package. The DHL guy doesn't even ask him for any ID. Leaves my building. Walks straight out, you know, signed, good, delivered, we're good.
Free for all.
No, we're not. You delivered this to somebody, some stranger in my building, some Bob Stranger Johnson guy. And so obviously I'm not happy. When I'm talking to DHL on the phone, I'm like, how could you guys release this to just some stranger? And you didn't even ask him for any ID. And well, they tell me that their policy, now this is pretty funny. Their policy is in a residence, like a house, they'll release it to anyone over 12 years old that can sign for it, that's at the residence. Now, that's bizarre in itself, and I'm sure some people living in houses are probably upset right now at their, you know, son's friends signing for their package. But that being said, also when you're dealing with a building,
UAV awaiting orders.
basically anyone over 18 that works at the building could sign for it.
Hunter-killer drone on standby.
What if the janitor was walking down the hallway, mopping the floors? Is he going to sign for it? Is he allowed to? I just think that's a little bit ridiculous. So clearly their policy needs some TLC to make it, you know, right. But, okay, so they escalated. They say they're sending it to their security team. Now, they were requesting to have the driver come back out because obviously he's seen this dude's face. And obviously he wasn't in the lobby footage, you know, caught red-handed intercepting this guy. No, he just delivered it right to his bloody door, which is stupid. So basically, eventually, what comes to happening is that DHL says to me that they're not going to send the driver back out, that they've escalated it to a certain point where they're going to deem the package lost or stolen, and they'll be contacting, obviously, you know, the sender, which is Machinima, and they'll be, you know, dealing with it on that end. But that doesn't solve my problem. That doesn't help me with, you know, my headache in this situation. And the fact that there's someone in my building that is willing to steal our shit and represent the building manager, even though the building manager doesn't even live in the building. So this whole thing's obviously a really shitty situation, but DHL tells me if they want to have their support in this any further, I have to contact the Toronto police. So, naturally I called the Toronto police, and I talked to a guy, and obviously, this item was a promotional item. I didn't pay for it, so they're automatically going, well, it's not an item of value. They're telling me that it's small potatoes on their radar, which, to be fair, it is, And they're saying that usually, back in the day, they might have handled this a little differently. The guy I'm actually speaking to was a 15-year veteran of the Toronto Police Force. And he said, back in the day, you would have called me, got me, and I would have came out there and handled it myself, and I probably would have, slapped this kid upside the head. So that's amusing, but he's telling me that usually they just take a report, and guess where those reports go? They go nowhere. But thankfully, this guy, he's telling me all these war stories, and he's having a nice conversation with me, and we're shooting the shit, and it's not he's not treating me like I'm just another report to put in. And he says, what I can do is if anyone's free in the area, we can send a car out, and the best they can do is knock on his door and see if he will actually admit to this, or admit that he has it, or if they can catch him red-handed, kind of like holding it in his hand like this, which is unlikely, right? But you know what, I'll take what I can get. So this is where the story gets really funny. So a police unit eventually comes to my building. They buzz for me, I let them in. They come up and I relay the situation to them. And I tell them that somebody was impersonating someone in our building, and they, signed for a package clearly addressed to me, but, they took it for themselves. And so the guy's listening to me, and you got one officer who is about maybe a bit taller than me, and he's a white dude, he's pretty big dude. And then you got this other dude, holy crap. This dude must be 6'5". He's like an Indian dude, and he's got a touch of an accent, but he speaks perfect English, and he's fucking massive. He's a big fucking dude in my fucking apartment. And so they're shooting this shit with me, and they're like, okay, well, we're not gonna lie to you. We're probably gonna, try and bullshit him a little bit. We're gonna try and see if we can, get him to say something that he shouldn't, and so that we can get your game back. And I'm like, to be honest, I don't even care about the game. This guy is a dickhead living in my building. I hope that you catch him red-handed in anything and just cart him away, because, we ideally would love to get this guy out of our building. So the cops, they're gone. 5 minutes, I swear to God, 5 minutes they're gone. And they come back and knock on my door, and I was like, oh, how'd it go? And he's like, well, we knocked on his door, and he was home. And we spoke to him, and of course, he denied having your game. And I was like, oh, great, this is a dead end. This is not going anywhere. I'm thinking to myself, well, all this time I spent trying to get this thing back is, wasted time. I just want some justice in the situation. Well, doesn't the cop produce from right behind him? He holds the Need for Speed game in his hand. He gives it to me. It's still cellophane wrapped. It hasn't even been opened. That's how stupid this is. It hasn't even been opened. He puts it down on the table, and he's like, but here's your game, we got it back. My partner, you put him in a chokehold for, a couple seconds, and he gave us the game back. And I was like, what? You put him in a choke? That's just too funny. You put him in a choke, like, that's perfect. That's exactly what this asshole deserved. That's exactly what he deserved to get, and sometimes, all signs point to yes, and you just need to, rattle a cage. And here I got my game back. It hasn't even been played. It's not even been opened. And so I just thought that was funny. I want to thank the Toronto Police, for their, official, unofficial business that they've helped me out with, and sorting this out. Now, obviously, I'm going to be following up with my building's management and such in hopes to get this guy kicked out of our building. I'm pretty sure that given the situation, they didn't, arrest him or anything, because they kind of shook him down a little bit. But, that's some funny shit, and I thought you guys might enjoy the justice of the situation. I'm certainly happy. And obviously, we've got a little bit longer in this game left. It's currently about maybe 3 minutes left in the video, maybe a bit less, because I'm probably going to finish out. I'm at 26 kills. But I just thought that situation was just too funny to not relay to you guys and share with you guys, and I hope you got a kick out of it. But I'll spend the rest of this game, I'll put some music with it, and I hope you guys enjoyed the story, and I will catch you guys later.